Nalin, you have, of course, been, looking at this interview and reading between the lines. Why do you feel the Prime Minister is so confident that actually after knowing him for 10 years, the public is going to vote for him again? This is, in other words, the Prime Minister saying that actually after seeing my work, there's going to be pro-incumbency for me, not anti-incumbency. The public is not jaded or in any way disillusioned by his 10 years.
So I think this is, just a month ago at the Red Fort, he said, I'll be back, Terminator-like, and so on. This is the second time he's reiterated that with a quiet sense of confidence in this interview, and he's reading between the lines. He's specifically talking about the fact that Modi was an unknown quantity at national level 14 years ago, and he's now essentially saying, I'm campaigning on my record. But I do think that in this interview, for example, the point that he makes about the democratization of the G20, I think that's an interesting point. Because, there's always been this criticism, what's the big deal? The presidency comes by rotation.
Yes.
So what's the big deal? I think the big deal is that the legacy of India to G20 is there have been 220 meetings in dozens of cities.
Over 60 cities.
8 union territories, and over 60 cities, and that includes both Congress-ruled states and BJP-ruled states. So that's a democratization of an esoteric idea which earlier was perhaps consigned just to diplomatic circles or to the bureaucracy. The PM makes the point that he has never made at least he claimed that he's never made an important policy decision from Vigyan Bhavan. In fact, even when UPI was launched at Tal Katora. So I think the point that he's making about democratizing, and by the way, there's a straight line between the Modi government's diplomacy at the bilateral level and the G20 gambit, because in the past, when Angela Merkel came, the Japanese Prime Minister came, others came, those meetings were held in Jaipur and other cities, not really in Delhi. So I think there is an interesting thing here, which many global observers are also talking about, that the next country that has the presidency this is a new kind of template for G20. It's never been democratized in that manner in any country. So that's a new kind of template.
Yeah, but Nalin, just to come back to the focus that we were on, before I go to Rasheed Kidwai also, why do you think, what is that central thing that makes the Prime Minister so confident that actually after watching his performance for 10 years, he's super confident of a verdict? I'm asking this question again because after 10 years, there is obviously, routinely speaking, in conventional politics, talks of anti-incumbency.
Yes. Two or three things. I think the Prime Minister alludes to one of them, that he says that we are now entering an era of decisive mandates. We've seen that in both the last 2 Lok Sabha elections. We've seen that in state after state in Vidhan Sabha elections. I think you look at a multitude of surveys. The Mood of the Nation survey came out recently. CSBS has done surveys. There is no question that Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains head and shoulders above other political leaders as the most important political brand in the country. There's no change in that.
Right.
Now, there are economic indicators about economic distress. There is a question around monsoon and so on. But that has not changed the popularity of brand Modi. And I think there are 2 or 3 things he's certainly banking on. One is this enduring Teflon-like popularity of the Prime Minister, which may work less in state elections. The national elections is a different ball game.
Yeah.
The second is in a presidential style contest against Modi who. And the third, I think, is that while you have an incipient opposition unity, the real nub when the rubber hits the road is going to be how will that translate into common candidates and who the candidate will be against Mr. Modi. And also, I think there is a sense that he's reaching out. He's very confident about his appeal to the voter, and in a class sense, he's making the point that while there may be distress, who do people trust to solve those problems more than the other? And I think that's what he's really banking on.
No, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Nalin. Let me take that to Rasheed Kidwai also. That seems to be the fundamental problem for the opposition, Rasheed. One is his popularity. The Prime Minister's popularity is pretty high despite 2 consecutive terms. There's been no dip, frankly. And we've seen that last time around the BJP increased its mandate, which again, not many saw coming. And the other thing is that regardless of whatever issues there may be, his style of functioning, the fact that he's working 24/7 virtually, he doesn't take a day off. This is a recent RTI disclosure that we have read about. The fact that, he's been focusing on all kinds of things for India. He says there's a little bit of Modi that they've seen everywhere, from the Chandrayaan mission to my recent US visit. There's a recent Pew survey that suggests that people feel India's image has increased or improved under Modi. You know, so his personal charisma and attachment, that's not going down, and that's the fundamental problem for the opposition. There are issues, but they trust Modi.
Yes, Shivani, I think first of all I would want to compliment Moneycontrol for this excellent interview. The thing is that nothing is simple in Indian politics. Whatever you say about Indian politics, the opposite is equally true. So while I don't take away whatever Nalin has said, see, there is another perspective. Prime Minister's popularities have always been 50% or more. By recent surveys, some said 73%. But if you look at the BJP, it's getting 31%, 38% of vote. 2014, 2019, there was no pre-poll alliance. There was no major pre-poll alliance. So this way, this becomes, and then you have 2004 story when India was shining, Prime Minister Vajpayee's popularity was very high, and still the verdict was slightly different. So what I'm saying is there is a lot of time. And one last point, Shivani, the way Prime Minister and the BJP has been scouting for some kind of master stroke, some game changer, whether we are talking about special session of parliament or otherwise, it tells you a story. It tells you a story that India Alliance, emergence of India Alliance, is something that has actually, sent some kind of, degree of nervousness in the and the BJP camp, and they're looking for something. So, जो थोड़ा है, थोड़े की जरूरत है. You see, the BJP wants to make it a foolproof case. In spite of getting this survey that Nalin was referring to, 300 plus seats, I think the BJP is very, very unsure whether that they don't want a hung house kind of situation in 2024.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rashid. Nothing is a certainty, and I certainly do not ascribe to the view that it's a done deal 2024. But BJP is also a party that never leads anything to chance. So if they're giving their 150%, that's just how they are. Sometimes we read too much into it. But my fundamental question was this: there is no denying that there are issues. But who is against Modi, who can come and say, like he did in 2014, that place your trust in me and I will deliver for you? On top of that, Narendra Modi's delivery has been stupendous, whether the opposition accepts or not.
Shivani, no disagreement what you're saying, but we have a parliamentary system of democracy. There are going to be elections in 543 Lok Sabha constituencies. State after state, it differs. You look at any controversy, there is always the two sides. What I'm saying is the BJP itself knows, and it's a good thing politically speaking, it is not sure-footed. And please bear that in mind.
Absolutely. Nalin, you agree with that there's a little bit of discomfort in the BJP ranks because of the opposition coming together? Final 30 seconds, please.
Look, there's no question that there's an election to be fought. This is not a done deal. And I think the BJP is not being complacent at all. There are pockets of worry, as Rasheed has said, but at the same time, look, there's a lot of politics to happen over the next 6 or 7 months.
Yes.
At the moment, who's ahead? The opposition has gathered momentum, but the BJP still remains ahead at this point.
Okay, I will leave it at that. I do thank both of you for joining us, and of course, a reminder, you can go to moneycontrol.com to read that full interview.